Could trouble be brewing for the Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb haters in Alabama's fan base? Stick around. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you why, if everything works out, Alabama's offense could be much improved going into 2026. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hey there, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome into Way Offside, your favorite source for all things Alabama sports. We're talking Alabama football today, as we will be. Just because the season's over doesn't mean it ends here. College football, Alabama sports, Alabama football, 365 days a year right here on Way Offsides. A lot of recruiting stuff coming up. We're going to have Trent Seaborn on with us live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you are subscribed and locked in so you don't miss that live. He'll be fielding questions. We're going to talk about his path to Tuscaloosa, his mentor relationship with the Tagovailoa family, his faith, family, all of it. So make sure you're locked in with us, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Now, what I want to talk about today is, now for those of you who are on the pessimistic side of things, you're not going to like this video. I'll be pessimistic later. But I'm going to try to be positive in this video, but I'm going to also try to be realistic, okay? And I'm basing this video off of a couple of things. Mainly, the main stay that we're going to talk about is Alabama's offensive line, because we all know, we all understand that for Alabama's offense to be what we expect it to be in 2026, that's the key. And Alabama staff has really gone to work, not just in the portal, but there were some foreseeable things in terms of recruiting. They've had a couple of really good years recruiting, as well as obviously you fire Coach Cap and you go get Adrian Clem, who I know a lot of people are on the fence about. But I think it's going to work. And here's why. The caliber of player that Alabama has going into that offensive line position, it's exactly that. Everybody was upset that Alabama didn't get the big names. They didn't get the big name as the O-line coach. They didn't get the big names that opened up in the portal. Would you have liked to have those? Yes. And Alabama certainly messed a couple of them up. There's no sugarcoating that. They missed on some dudes that they should have been in the mix for. However, I like what they did in the portal class. I don't think it's bad, especially considering a guy like Ty Haywood. Okay. Now, why, Cotton? Why are we talking about Ty Haywood? Well, Wyatt Fulton over on X. If you don't follow Wyatt, you can follow him at FultonW_. He put up a quote from Michigan defensive lineman Derek Moore. And Moore said he had really, really high praise for Ty Haywood and Caden Strayhorn, who are both now at Alabama. The quote: "He made me better throughout the season. He's real physical, real aggressive. When he gets his hands on you, you're not getting off of him," end quote. Now, sure, right? Take it as you will. But I think with a guy like Ty Haywood, Alabama's offensive line immediately gets better. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. Obviously, the talking points about Haywood, he's a former 5-star recruit with a very, very high upside. Right. He was a tackle coming out of high school. He's ranked among the top offensive tackle prospects nationally. And that level implies that he does have a high baseline of physical tools and technique. Right. It's there. He just needs mentorship. Right. Everybody didn't like Coach Cap. They didn't feel like he could develop and mentor. Well, now we got another guy who can and has done it at places like UCLA and Oregon. He's also done it in a sense that he understands what folks are looking for from tackles, guards, and center play at the next level. All right. Now, Haywood himself brings with him formidable size and really physical traits that fit what Alabama's looking for. We've said it all season. We miss an offensive line that can go out there and maul somebody and open up holes for the run game. This is a guy who can come in and do that. right? He's young, but when we talk about physical talent, Ty Haywood's got it, man. 6'5", 315 plus pounds. He brings size, length that you would covet in regards to an SEC offensive lineman. And that frame gives Alabama flexibility to play him at tackle. They could even consider playing him inside if they want to, right? So we'll see. It adds versatility. And if you've watched anything we've talked about, whether it be recruiting or the portal, that is one of those like key words that gets brought up in everything Alabama's doing is versatility, right? They want players who are versatile, who are almost all hybrid, who can do multitude of things, and they're getting rid of the guys who couldn't. Best example, Isaiah Horton, right? The main producer in terms of receivers last year for Alabama, but he wasn't versatile. He couldn't do all the things. He dang sure couldn't block well, right? So how big of a miss is it to lose him? All right, so Alabama goes and gets rid of a lot of clutter. I think some of that clutter, they legitimately were kind of like, hey, here's the door. Not saying that they fired anybody from the team, but we've talked about this before. I do feel like there was a philosophy, and we're not going to pay for players who aren't producing, right? And then they just lost a lot on the offensive line to the draft. They lost to the transfer portal, blah, blah, blah. So they go and get these guys, these two guys from Michigan, and I'm really excited about Haywood. Strayhorn, sure, exciting, but Ty Haywood gets me really excited. I follow his recruitment through high school, and I thought he was going to be one of the better offensive linemen that Alabama was going to sign for a couple of years. I was really excited about him. But with him, he's bringing proven college experience than some of the alternatives out there. His snap count at Michigan was limited because he was a freshman, but he has that real game experience. And I'm telling you, go watch this guy in high school, legit mauler, man. He's a guy that can really open some things up for these running backs. And I still stand firmly that Alabama has a very talented stable of running backs. You've got two basically five-star guys back there in A.K. Deere, E.J. Crowell, who can kind of give you that pop, that explosiveness. What do you need to do to get them going? The offensive line has got to run block. All right. He brings that physical and aggressive blocking. I just read you the report from more reports from those kind of peers, and they're not the only ones. Describe Haywood as very physical and aggressive and a guy who you can compete with and get better because you're competing against him. That's interesting to me because that competition that we keep talking about along the offensive line during the offseason, I think is going to breed the best likely scenario in terms of a starting offensive line. I think you're going to see something different because there are very few guys who are just going to be plug and play. They are going to have to fight for a start in the starting lineup. And I think because of that, and because of Clem, who went into UCLA from 2014 to 2015, you saw a dramatic drop in sacks, allowed, things like that. And it was because they quit flipping their offensive line around. Alabama's been doing that for 2 years, trying to solve the puzzle, right? If they have legitimate competition along this line, it's going to bring their best foot forward and hopefully solidify what you're going to roll with throughout the season early on. And they're going to have the schedule sets up a little bit better for them, for guys like Ty Haywood, who maybe need to, shake some of the rust off. It sets up nicely for them to be able to do that as well. And so, the thing that about Haywood is I think those physical and aggressive traits are what Alabama's looking for in trying to help establish the run game. And obviously you want to anchor in pass protection and things like that. But Alabama right now wants to run the football. They have confidence in their wide receiving room. They have confidence in their quarterback room that they're going to be able to throw the ball. They want to run the daggum football. They understand that is the task at hand. I'm telling you right now, I've said it on just about every video where we talk about the offensive line, but it's true. If Alabama could have run the football effectively last season, they would probably be in contention for a national title. They probably would have played last week. It would have taken so much stress off of the quarterback position if they could have just run the daggum football. This staff is doing everything you want them to. Everything you've yelled about, they're doing it. They've gone and got the offensive linemen. No, they're not overpaying for the big guys that you want, the big names. But I would argue maybe that's the strategy, right? Maybe we don't go get a guy who thinks he's bigger than the program because we paid $3 million for him. That doesn't work. Maybe we go get guys who have enough experience to where they're dependable. We bring them in and we let competition bring the best out of them. Maybe that's the thought process here. If that's what happens, it's going to, a lot of people who have run their mouths are going to be in serious trouble. And I think some other teams could be in serious trouble. There would be trouble brewing across the SEC because I'm telling you, Alabama has the talent. We know what the defense is going to look like, specifically the secondary. There's still some questions along the defensive line. The off-ball linebacker position looks really, really good. Super interested to see what they're doing with some of these younger guys like Duke Johnson, Metz, Xavier Griffin when he gets there, which he's already on campus, but where they're going to fit. But we know what the defense is going to look like. What happens if this Alabama team can run the football? They're going to be one of the best teams in the country. A lot of folks are going to be eating a lot of crow. So with guys like Ty Haywood, they bring in that coachable attitude and work ethic. This is what we're talking about, as opposed to going and getting a Jordan Seaton who is shopping himself around and looking for the highest bidder. Coaches and teammates have noted that Haywood he's a quiet, humble, and he's very receptive to instruction, valuable attributes, especially bringing in a new offensive line coach who hopefully is not just going to change what Alabama teaches and coaches along the line. He's going to change the culture back to what we're used to. And Clem can do it. He's a run-first offensive line coach. Not saying that he can't coach an offensive line to protect a quarterback, but his numbers definitely support that he knows how to get an offensive line to open holes to run the football. It'll be very interesting to watch how he works with Ryan Grubb in terms of how they scheme things, how they do things. I'm excited about it. I am excited about it. And I'm not trying to be overly positive here. Okay. I understand that there is the potential for this to all catastrophically fail. I understand that. And if it happens, it happens. But ultimately, you're a fan of Alabama. If you're watching this, I would assume. I'm a fan of Alabama, right? I want to be excited about the upcoming football season. And I think that a lot of times we have the sky's falling mentality when things aren't necessarily as bad as they look. You know? Anyway. But I think the staff has done a good job along the offensive line. It remains to see if it's going to click. If it does not click and they can't run the ball again, this team's going to get run off the field a lot next year. You thought the Rose Bowl was embarrassing. I put that caveat out there. I'll clip it or whatever. So when all you start talking about how we were overly positive and hyping this team up for no reason, you can go, well, we told you this too. You just didn't listen. But the potential is there for this team to basically get its butt whipped if it doesn't fix what it did in 2025. However, with guys like Haywood, bringing in those kind of guys, as opposed to names that everybody wants and that they're basically shopping themselves around, bringing in a new offensive line coach, I don't know what more you want Alabama to try to do to fix it. And that's promising to me. I feel confident, or at least slightly more confident, because I've seen Kalen DeBoer and this staff get in there, get their hands dirty, and address the actual problems. Nobody knew or could have predicted that Alabama was going to have its worst rushing year historically, and God knows how long, in 2025. But as soon as the season was over, the staff went to work to fix it. It is very hard to fix that midseason. Very difficult to fix it. They tried moving offensive line personnel. It just did not work. Now, if it remains to be that it's the scheme and things like that, and it is Ryan Grubb, it's going to show in 2026, and we all know what the next step is, right? But a guy like Ty Haywood, I'm really excited about Racing Delgatti. Remains to be seen if he's going to translate to this level of play. But I just feel like Alabama's got the dudes, man. They've got the dudes to have a consistent offensive line. And with what they're going to be able to do at the quarterback position next year, you've seen it from Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. So have I. That type of play can take some of the pressure off the offensive line. There is reason to be excited. There is reason to be hopeful that it gets fixed. There could absolutely be trouble brewing for everybody else in the SEC. Because I'm telling you right now, if Alabama could have run the ball last season, if they could have run the football, I think they still would have gotten shell-shocked at FSU. Because that was a lot more than just not being able to run the ball. That was just getting slapped in the face because it was your first game of the season. But they don't lose to Oklahoma in the regular season. They probably don't lose to Georgia again in the SEC championship. They would need to be healthy too. And I think that they make a legitimate run at the national title. Alabama had the pieces. They had the pieces except for the offensive line. Would you like to see them have a more consistent pass rush? Sure, that's a topic for another video. Is some of the fault on the running backs? Yup, that's a topic for another video too. But I do think that we have to acknowledge that if the staff got it right, it will make Alabama formidable again. And that's what we're all crossing our fingers and hoping for, right? That's what everybody wants. We shall see. We shall see. So thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate all of you. You are the best. If there's a little difference between the video and the audio, I had to hook up a different way today just because I'm having to use a different computer because of where I am. So I apologize. But I want to know, how do you feel? Like right now, it's been a couple of days since Clem got hired. It's been a couple of weeks since Alabama addressed its offensive line needs in the portal. You know what the recruiting classes have looked like. Do you think that if Alabama can run the ball consistently, I think if they average 3 yards a carry, if they could average 3 yards a carry, do you think that Alabama will be a formidable opponent for other teams in 2026, or do you feel like there's just too many question marks? I want to hear from you. Tell me. And make sure you're with us tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central Time. Like I said, Trent Seaborn, new Alabama quarterback commit. Those of you in Alabama, he's basically a legend already. But Trent will be on with us tomorrow night. Should be a lot of fun. Make sure you're following us on Spotify, Apple Music, for those of you, anywhere you listen to your podcast. So, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all the stuff. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.